Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Please visit our website, holybatcast.com. It's where you're going to find episodes of the show, merchandise, links, all that stuff. You can also find us all over the internet, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, Holy BatCast. That's it. We're the only one, so give us a search and give us a little like or a follow, whatever. And if you are a fan of the show, we are also on Patreon. So you can go to patreon.com/holybatcast if you would like to pledge to the show and help keep it rolling. So as always, the biggest of thank yous to our patrons who do that. And so I've got to give a big shout out to our latest patron, Mr. Joel Eckhart. Hey, Joel, thank you for becoming a patron. Welcome to the party. We love it. And huge thank you. So I do love that it is Eckhart. So I want to say, get me Lieutenant Eckhart. No? Okay, well, whatever. So anyway, Joel, thank you for that. And again, if anybody would like to be a patron, you can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. We are part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you want to check out some of those shows, you can check all those out at rf4rm.com. I'm your host, Andy DiGenova, and if you'd like to follow me on Twitter or on Instagram, it's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode, we're going to be discussing the latest DC animated film, The Death of Superman. Joining me, I have my partner in crime. It's Mr. Jamie Drewley. Hey, Jamie. Jamie?
I'm sorry, I was observing a moment of silence given today's topic.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. But eventually you're going to have to talk. Otherwise, it's going to be a very boring episode.
You think that makes for bad radio or something? Or?
It does. Dead
okay.
air
All right.
is as bad as it gets.
Hi, everybody. That was my Dr. Nick. It was terrible.
Hi,
I know.
Dr.
Get off
Jamie. Well, hi. Also joining us, we have a very special guest. He is one of our patrons, and as part of that, he gets to be part of the show, but he's also just been a huge supporter of the show and a huge friend to us through the length of the show. So patron or not, he's just someone we're really happy to welcome for his first episode of Holy BatCast, and that is Mr. Phillip Barker. Hey, Phil.
So that's what that sounds like. Thanks for having me, guys. It's a real blast. I'm a big fan of the show. I love listening to you, Jamie, and Brendan, everyone come on the show and talk DC and Batman. I've been following the show for a couple of years, and I couldn't be any more excited to be here, so thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. We are glad to have you, and it is your first time on the show, so it is time for the infamous question. What is your favorite Batman movie, and why?
Does it have to be live action, or can it be animated?
I don't care.
You don't care?
No, life's too short. Whatever works.
Well, the obvious answer is Batman Forever.
Okay, well, this has been Phillip on the Holy BatCast. We thank you for joining us, and yeah.
No, seriously, my favorite Batman movie, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, and I really don't care. It's probably definitely Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Hands down.
That's all
I'm
right.
mad at that.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
You know,
I got no problem with that.
For years, I'd always just wanted Batman to look aesthetically kind of similar to Batman the Animated Series, Kevin Conroy's Batman. But for a long time, I just always thought that Batman looked really funky in movies going all the way back to '89 or even the Nolan franchise. I always just thought, his suit just, it's not quite how I would picture Batman in a movie. But then, Zack Snyder shared that picture of Ben Affleck in the suit in May of 2014, and I was in love. I was set in stone. And then the movie itself, I love it. I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he's fantastic. I think the chemistry between him and Jeremy Irons is awesome. I think him and Henry Cavill standing next to each other is just how I would picture Batman and Superman in a movie. But yeah, definitely.
Sweet. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's funny that you mentioned Batman Forever. I just have to share this because as I was waiting for someone to join the call so we could start the episode, I'm not pointing any fingers, but if I were, I'd be pointing towards Indiana. I was just scrolling through Twitter, as I do, to waste time, and I randomly caught someone who tweeted something about Batman Forever being the worst Batman movie ever made. And then I saw him follow up, and it was like, holy shit, I had no idea that was a controversial opinion to call Batman Forever the worst Batman movie ever made. And I wanted to be like, dude, preach. I've been there far too many times. So anyway, that's all. I just, I was amused by that because I've taken my share of licks for my dislike of that film. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that film. We're going to talk about a new animated film. These DC Universe animated films just keep on coming, and we're getting our first DC Universe animated film remake, sort of?
Kind of. Because
they are revisiting The Death of Superman. And so this has been out digitally for, God, at least a month. I know it leaked, which I did not see. I did not watch the leak because I like to support the family, and I'm not stealing it. I'm paying for it. But then it came out digitally a month ago, and then it just finally hit physical last week. So, as always, when these come out, we always want to give a little time to see what we thought. So, without further ado, it's time to take a look at the new DC Universe animated film, The Death of Superman. All right, so The Death of Superman. This time, it is in the DC animated continuity with Justice League War and Throne of Atlantis and Batman and Son, I think, and Batman vs. Robin. Those are all in the same continuity, and this one is as well. But as I mentioned, the very first DC animated film was Superman Doomsday 11 years ago. And
wow,
yeah, 11 years. And the reason I remember that is because I remember it was the first thing I bought when I moved to California. And I just celebrated my 11-year California-versary.
Nice.
So I just remember having all these boxes and Superman Doomsday by itself, sitting on the boxes because I actually went out and bought that. So anyway, they decided, hey, I know we did it, but we can do it even better. And they took a shot, and we will discuss whether we think that was successful. So we will start spoiler free, but if you are a DC fan or a comic book nerd, I think you know what's going to happen in The Death of Superman. Maybe. So even so, we'll start spoiler free, and I will give you a spoiler warning just as a courtesy, but again, I think you're good. and then we'll get into the film. So Phillip, spoiler free, what was your reaction to the new animated Death of Superman?
I loved it. No questions asked. I loved it. I enjoyed every bit of it. It's been my favorite one since last one I really loved was probably Justice League Dark. But yeah, I definitely love The Death of Superman. Yeah.
Sweet. Jamie, what about you?
It had a lot of things I really liked about it. It had a number of things I did not like about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know everybody seems to be in love with this, and I'm going to have the controversial opinion. Surprise everybody. I know that's a shot coming from me.
Oh, come on.
First things first, I just want to get this out of the way and say, I like this story. I've always liked this story. I've always been a fan of this story. I was huge into the comics back when this happened, back in 1991 or 2 or whenever it was that it happened. I think it was 92. So yeah, it's something that registered with me. I saw the previews of this, and my biggest problem with the original comic story has always been that it was the Z-grade Justice League involved with it. Bloodwind and Maxima, and people who aren't
Bloodwind. That was his name, right? Bloodwind.
Yes. People who don't even have their names in the vernacular of any, but Maxima is literally the only character that was in the Justice League from that point. Maybe Guy Gardner. And my mind's fuzzy. It's been a number of years since I've read the story now, but it was no Flash, no Wonder Woman, no Batman. None of these people were there. They all showed up for the funeral and whatnot, and there was, the repercussions of the story had some involvement with those characters as well. But the Justice League proper was not as we, know it and recognize it today, especially in this post, New 52 era. I mean, it's not the characters that we know and love. So when I saw the previews for this and I saw the Batman, Hawkman, Green Lantern, Flash, we're all going to be here. I'm like, now we're going to improve a little bit on the Death of Superman story, and that these characters are going to be involved instead of these other characters. You know, apologies to the Bloodwind diehards out there, but come on, man.
Oh, there's going to be riots in the streets, Jamie. You don't talk bad about Bloodwind. You don't. And that's a character that's like totally disappeared, hasn't he?
Bloodwind was actually somebody else, and I don't even remember who it is now. It was like somebody else reincarnated, or I don't remember.
Yeah,
the
he
details.
disappeared. They tried to make him a thing, and it didn't work, and then now he's gone.
The name barely rings a bell. That just probably shows how old I am.
Yeah. And like I say, I don't remember if Guy Gardner was part of this or not, but if he was, that's not a plus in my book. At least it wasn't at that time. So seeing these characters involved, I mean, that's a huge thing for me. But watching this movie, and I watched it twice. I watched it the day I bought it on the Blu-ray, and then I watched it again right before we started recording, which, apologies, guys, that's why I'm late. I had to finish watching it the second time.
Totally fair.
I wanted it to be fresh because it's been over a week. So I didn't get a lot of the emotional impact I was anticipating or even, I guess, would hope for here. And it's only because I know every beat of the story. I have a hard time feeling that gut wrench about Superman dying because I've seen it in the comics. Then I saw it in Superman Doomsday. Then I saw it in Batman versus Superman. And now I've watched it in this. And I don't want to say that the idea is tired because I'm still a huge fan of the story. And I still, am a big Doomsday fan, as many of you know. So it just didn't pack the emotional punch for me that I was hoping it was going to, because I kind of knew what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's kind of taking it in my own perspective than the context of the story that's being told. But I'm just going to get out of my way now because I don't want to spend the entire episode being negative, because I really do truly believe there's way more of this to like than there is to not. For some reason, and I don't know if it's because of differences that we're taking with this one, or if it's just because I'm paying attention in a different perspective or what, but I watched the digital copy the first time and I thought to myself, ooh, this doesn't look very good. So, I bought the 4K Blu-ray, so now I'm downstairs in my basement. I watched a 4K disc on my 4K player on my 4K TV, and it looked every bit as bad. I did not like the character animation in this film at all. I don't like the way they move, the way their facial expressions are, the way they talk, just the general way they look. I just don't think they look that good. And again, maybe these other movies have looked the same way and moved the same way and everything else, and I just haven't noticed it until now. But both times I watched it, I was extremely aware of how the animation seemed off to me. Like, people seemed to glide when they walked, and their mouths didn't seem to quite line up with the dialogue, and their eyes seemed too far apart at one point, too close together at another point. It just was it off-putting as hell for me.
Not to be a negative Nancy, Jamie, but you did. I think I recall you saying something similar about Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay. You having similar issues with that one, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably at least a scene or two. Yeah, there have been other ones where there's been a scene or two where I thought it looked off, but this one, it was like front to back, like the backgrounds and the city designs, even the vehicles. I think those all look fine. It's just the actual character animation itself just was not my favorite. Yeah. I guess that's the way I'm going to leave that, because again, I don't want to spend the whole time being negative. But outside of that, I think the story was well done. I think they abridged it just well enough. I think even Peter Tomasi wrote this, if I'm not mistaken, which I'm a big fan of his Superman work. Mm-hmm. There's some nods to other things in here, like there's some Donner Superman nods here. There's some BVS nods, I think, in here. So I mean, there's plenty of stuff to like here, nostalgically speaking and whatnot. But I just didn't quite love this the way that I wanted to love it.
Interesting. I think that your point about having seen this story a lot of times is completely valid. Because I thought the same thing, and I didn't think it as a negative. It was just an observation as I was watching it. I was like, man, they've really gotten as much mileage out of the Death of Superman story as humanly possible, because there was the book, there was a video game, there was one animated film, now there's 2 animated films. It served as a huge inspiration for Batman versus Superman. It was going to inspire, the failed Superman Lives movie that didn't happen. It's one of, I get it. It was like this landmark moment in comics history. Last I heard, it was still the best-selling comic book of all time. I assume that's still true. So DC has gone back to this well many times, and so I get that. It doesn't have the novelty that maybe it would have, or it did way back in 1992 when the comic first was released, because you were like, oh yeah, I've seen this story a lot in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different mediums, so I understand that.
One more I got to throw out so I can switch back to mostly positive. Rainn Wilson's got to go.
He voiced Lex Luthor.
Yes. So,
Yes.
Aside from that, I'm more in Phil's camp. I really loved it. I thought it was great. I have very little negative to say about it. Again, I understand where you're coming from, Jamie, where you're like, yeah, I know what's going to happen, but I do feel it's a step up from Superman Doomsday. I do love, incorporating the rest of the Justice League in a way that Superman Doomsday did not. And I like building up to the death of Superman the way it does. I like the character work. I actually really liked the animation. I thought the animation was really strong. I think it's very consistent with all of the other ones that are in this continuity with War and Throne of Atlantis. And I think Justice League Dark is part of this continuity as well. But I felt the animation to be consistent with all of those. And I do enjoy that consistency. I do wonder, as I was watching it, though, as I was like, it feels weird now watching all of these New 52 versions now that is in our past. So to see this Superman, and mostly it's just aesthetic things, but like to see the Superman with the big blue, like, collar, like the fact that the fact that the blue in his suit goes all the way up his neck, like it just looks a little weird and a little different. And since they've abandoned that in the comics and the New 52 is over, it's weird to see it still live on here. You would think that at a certain point they would like at least tweak the looks of the Justice League in this, because who's going to care? So it's weird. Like, in the Wonder Woman outfit is very unique to that New 52 style. So that's not a negative or a positive. It was just something where I was like, yeah, you would think they would tweak the looks a bit instead of just really holding firm with the New 52.
Yeah, we've been in the Rebirth era for 2 years and a couple of months now, so I'm surprised they haven't rolled over to the newer stuff yet.
Right.
They did tweak the emblem on Batman's chest. I noticed that for the death of Superman. They tweaked that, and I was thinking to myself, like, if you guys are going to tweak the emblem on Batman's chest, you may as well just kind of tweak the designs of everyone a little bit. But I don't work there. I can't really say have any say.
Yeah, and and generally, like, Flash and Green Lantern, I think, look great. I wouldn't even bother. I'd like to see Batman get updated. I'd like to see Wonder Woman get updated, and I'd like to see Superman get updated. But again, that's just a little aesthetic thing. Who cares? It's just an observation more than anything. But overall, I was really pleased with this. I had been hearing mostly positive things, and so I was excited about it. And then on another podcast I listened to, one of the hosts really didn't like it. Like, didn't quite hate it, but like seemed to be getting pretty close. And I was like, oh crap, maybe I had seen a skewed sample, and maybe it's not that good. But I was very happy with it. I was very pleased with it. I loved the way they told this story. I loved the underlying story they told with Clark and Lois, and I love how they set up the sequel. Because this is just part 1, and so the reign of Superman is coming soon, next year sometime. I don't remember.
Early next year.
Yeah.
Early next year.
But yeah, so for me, it worked really well. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of these animated films since they've come out, ever since Justice League War came out in 2014, and it's been kind of, in a weird way, it does mirror how the death of Superman was handled in the comics, because you get 10 movies prior to the death of Superman filled with nothing but DC characters, starting with Justice League War, leading up into Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay. So by the time you get to Death of Superman, you have this really big idea of just how big this universe is. I guess if I had any kind of like gripes or like, I wish this would have been done one way, like they only had the Justice. You know what? I'll save that for after the spoiler wall.
Okay.
You know what? I'll save that for after the spoiler wall.
No worries. Well, let's get over the spoiler wall. So Phil and I were both very happy with it. It sounds like Jamie was mostly happy, but not quite as in love with it as he wanted to be. But that's where we stand. I definitely think that the death of Superman is worth your time. And that's coming from someone. I know a lot of people seem to dislike Superman Doomsday, but I actually think Superman Doomsday is plenty solid. But that was their very first DC Universe animated film, and so I think they were still kind of, figuring things out, and this just feels a little more, I don't know, a little more confident, a little larger.
I've maintained for a lot of years that most people's biggest issue with the Superman Doomsday movie is how many creative liberties they needed to take to make it the way they made it.
Yeah, I think that is it. Is they couldn't tell this massive Death of Superman, Return of Superman, Reign of Superman arc, and so they really had to focus in and make a much smaller, tighter story. And I think that for comic book fans, they were like, well, what the heck is all this? Like, this is not the way the story goes. And I think you're right. I think that is a big part of it.
I have a question for you, Andy. Does Superman Doomsday predate Mask of the Phantasm? Because Mask of the Phantasm is like a standalone, not necessarily a standalone. It's kind of part of Batman the Animated Series, but it was the first animated movie Warner Brothers Animation did. So where does
So when I'm saying Superman Doomsday was 2007, okay. Mask of the Phantasm was 93, right. But the reason I say Superman Doomsday was the first DC Universe animated film is because when they created this new team that was going to make these animated films and make multiple per year, Superman Doomsday was the first one.
I see what you're saying now. Okay,
so
that makes more sense.
Though there was Mask of the Phantasm, there was Sub-Zero, those were not part of of this. Those were like one-offs, and those were done by Warner Brothers Animation. I guess it's all Warner Brothers Animation, but this was a specific group that was created to make these animated films.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying now. All right, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So anyway. Let's get over the spoiler wall so we can speak freely, but definitely worth checking out, especially because, there's another one coming. So Death of Superman, it is out there, it's available, and we are now going to speak freely about spoilers, so you have been warned. I'm going to start with my spoiler, is I could not believe that Superman died in this movie. I didn't see it coming.
Oh, you.
I mean, in a movie called Death of Superman, if Superman didn't die at the end, I'd be like, well, all right, that was misleading.
I don't know. Anyway, so again, I don't know how much you can really spoil, because if you're even somewhat familiar with the arc from the comics, you know how it's going, right? Doomsday arrives on Earth and starts this reign of terror, and no one can stop him, and then Superman is in for the fight of his life, and they take each other out at the end. The end. Death of Superman.
I saw a review from IGN, and they said that Doomsday was very, one-dimensional, very single layer. His only motive was to kill, and it's just like, well, yes, that's exactly what...
That means they read the friggin' comics.
Exactly, right. And I'm just like, what more did you want? Did you want Doomsday to be, super intelligent like Lex Luthor in some capacity? No.
I tell you how much it drives me crazy with Doomsday. This is the second time I've had to see stuff shoot out of his face, and it still bugs me.
His laser vision?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. That was something added in Batman versus Superman, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
So I really love the way they handled Doomsday in this. I loved how they really let that threat build, from his arrival to him starting to make his way. I love that he was in the green suit first, that as they were trying to take him out, the suit would just keep getting ripped away in parts, and until finally he's revealed. I loved it. That is so true to what the comic was, and I think they did a great job with that here. But I think they did a great job of just showing what a formidable threat Doomsday is, especially when the League first attacks him. It was super cool to see Hawkman in action, even for just a minute. Because of all these, we've gotten so many of these animated movies, not a lot of love has been given to the Hawks, and so it was nice just to get a little moment there. But when Green Lantern takes on Doomsday, and Doomsday is like shattering Green Lantern's shield, you're like, this guy is not messing around. So I think they did a really nice job just showing how unstoppable he was.
Yeah, from his intro, from the meteorite coming down after Lex Luthor is like doing some shady business with some what it was like a space satellite or something like that, right? He was watching it incoming. Yeah, he's watching this whole thing come down, and then it goes down into the Pacific or somewhere in the sea, and Luthor already has a contact ready to make a bid on giving him the information for it, and he gets it right there on the spot. Then he sends a submarine down there, and Doomsday, from the get-go, after he's out of that meteorite, he just goes to town on people. Like, they don't show too much, but when they do show it, you just get the idea that Doomsday is just not going to stop.
It's pretty brutal. I mean, they show just enough, and there's some violence there, and a lot of these
I really think they toe the line with the PG-13 R rating thing here.
Oh yeah, they did.
Well,
I'm surprised they got away with
pulverize people. Oh my god, like it's pretty horrifying.
The first thing you see from Doomsday, outside of the bit of the meteorite coming apart as he's coming into orbit, like the first thing you see in action is he grabs two Atlanteans by the head and blood just starts pouring out from his hands.
Yeah,
he just squishes them like grapes, like boom, in the palm go.
He kills the one cop, then he flattens the car into another cop, then later on he picks up a police car and flattens a car on top of him, and you just see the blood. I mean, most of this you're seeing from the perspective of like somebody filming it with their cell phone and whatnot, so they're distant from it, and there's some restraint shown there, but at the same time, even with the restraint shown, the brutality of the character of Doomsday is 100% gotten across in what I feel is the right way.
I'd agree to that 100%.
Yep, I agree as well. He was a bad mofo.
I think even Batman at one point says, "Fall, you bastard."
I think so. Like, even after the point, like, even Batman knows there's a point. He just looks up in the sky and says, "Clark, we need you." Like, Batman knows just how bad of a threat Doomsday is within 5-10 minutes of fighting it.
Well, and again, in the way the threat builds, where I think it was Wonder Woman who says, "Don't worry, Clark, we got it.
Yeah.
We're fine."
Yeah.
And then it gets to the point where it's like, "Oh, Clark, we need you." And then Wonder Woman fights Doomsday, and it's great. But then when he takes her out, and there, there's the moment where she shatters her sword on his fist, which is, somewhat similar to what happens in the Wonder Woman film with
Ares.
And but then when Clark shows up and she says to him, "Don't hold back, because otherwise he will kill everyone." And it's just this great moment of like gravity of like, no, this is as bad as it gets.
Right. 100%. And actually
help us, Kal-El, you're our only hope.
Right. That shot where Wonder Woman gets backed into the building and then her hair braid gets broken, and then you just see this really nice homage shot of Wonder Woman with her hair down. You get this like vicious Amazon stance, and Wonder Woman's like, "Okay, this is business. Like, I need to go to town on this, or otherwise it's going to do exactly what it intends to do." And I just loved all of the animation when they would do shots like that with certain characters, specifically when Doomsday and Superman are fighting. Like, it's almost comic, it's almost panel to animation, kind of like The Dark Knight Returns was. You can see how it went from the page to the screen, and you see just like Superman and Doomsday just beating the snot out of each other, and it getting just so vivid.
Well, the part where I was truly won over in the positive sense is the first time the two of them trade a punch. It's kind of like the Rocky and Apollo,
Yes.
both throw a punch at the same time and it lands, and they connect with each other. And I'm pretty sure that's the first punch each one of them threw at each other, and the windows shatter on the entire block.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, now you've got my full 100% attention, because I love it when stuff like that happens.
To back it up, I actually really did like Andy brought up earlier, the whole underlying plot between Clark and Lois, and the whole his whole reason of wanting to be more open with her, and then that leading to, I have to go to work. Like, I just told you I love you, and now you have to understand why I have to go do my job. Because him telling Lois Lane in that note, I love you, after the whole film, they're building up this thing where Clark is dating Lois Lane now. Wonder Woman and Superman are no longer a thing, which that was a thing since Justice League War. So in between Justice League versus Teen Titans and Death of Superman, Wonder Woman and Superman split, and Lois and Clark started seeing each other. I think that was really well handled as far as the writing of the story is concerned, because you needed that emotional bond between Lois and Clark in order to really make this story work. Right. And I think they did it pretty well considering the shortcuts they took to get there. I agree.
Yeah, I thought it was really strong. It was funny though, because at the beginning when Superman, you've got kind of like this intro action sequence with what the hell's the name of the gang?
Intergang.
There you go.
Who I find to be one of the most uninteresting Superman villains out there. So
yeah,
that's
Intergang.
just me.
Well, but
it was great for like an intro action scene of like, oh, here's the world, and here's how Superman's always looking out for everyone. And I actually really appreciated how I guess it would be Tomasi, how he wove that into the story of like, oh, we can always count on Superman's always here for us, Superman will never let us down, and like just how much Metropolis and the world counts on Superman and expects him always to be there, to really just set up how devastating it will be when he is not there. But anyway, I had a point. But anyway, so after this intergang thing, Superman goes to meet with Lois, and it took me a second to be like, I'm just so used to now that Lois knowing that Superman and Clark are the same. So it took me a second to realize, oh, okay, in this version they're not.
Not yet.
Lois doesn't know that yet. So it just took me a minute to kind of go, okay, in this version she doesn't know, because I'm just so used to her knowing now.
Yeah, after doing a rewatch of Justice League War, Throne of Atlantis, and versus Teen Titans, all the present ones that Superman was in, and trying to get a decent continuity of how the Superman story kind of builds into Death of Superman, Superman's majorly with Wonder Woman throughout the majority of that. So in Death of Superman is when you finally get Lois and Clark. So for them to establish that right in the beginning, how they establish it in the beginning, I think is actually really nice, because Superman, he introduces Lois to his parents via Kryptonian technology, which I actually also like, that the engine piece to his ship was a blue crystal, and I was like, hey, I know what that's from, because I'm pretty sure that was like kind of a homage to 78. Where the blue crystal comes out and makes the Fortress of Solitude, things like that.
It's technically a green crystal in that, but
it is, isn't it? I thought it was blue. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was like, where's there a blue crystal? But yeah, no, exactly. Like you get Superman and giving Lois, the next big story, showing her how he got here and his parents and his tutor, I guess, right? Like it's
the
like
nanny, as he called it.
The nanny.
The nanny. That's what it is. The nanny.
Eradicator. There's thin line.
That's what I was gonna say. Like so setting up the Eradicator. Like I loved the seeds that they sowed for the 4 Supermen to come.
Right.
I thought that was
quick
really
cool.
cool.
Shout out to I know I'm jumping around here, but I gotta say it because I want to get it out there and not forget. Quick shout out to John Henry Irons being voiced by Black Lightning.
I know, right?
Cress Williams,
awesome.
yeah.
I love how, once you're part of the DC family, you're just part of the DC family. And I didn't know that until I looked at the credits. And I was like, oh, good. That's awesome. Black Lightning. So anyway, but yeah, so like showing Lois and Superman's relationship and then showing Lois and Clark's. And yeah, you get through context that it's still relatively new. They've kept it a secret at the office, but it's getting serious and whatnot. So just kind of setting that up, I really liked. And the whole thing of like, hey, if this is going to work in the long term, you need to let her in on everything and just his struggle. I thought that was a compelling human story, while we're waiting for all the smashy.
Precisely. Yeah. That whole dynamic of Lois and Clark being kind of a newly thing, being a secret between the office, but Lois keeping Cat Grant in on the inside of it all kind of had me chuckling a little bit. Yeah. I did dig that.
One of my favorite characters in the whole thing is Jamie Drewley who runs that restaurant.
Let me tell you something here.
For some reason, they kept calling him Bibbo, but I swear it's they must have misspoken because it's Jamie Drewley.
I was going to save this for later, but we're going to go ahead and open this door since you turn the handle. Bibbo Bibowski is the MVP of this film, and it's not even close.
Yeah,
he is fantastic.
I really like Bibbo. I thought bringing Bibbo in from the comics was just a nice nod. He's a nice character to have in this movie. He's like, in a sense, he's Superman's #1 fan throughout this whole movie.
Yeah, he's awesome. And I don't know when Bibbo first showed up because I've only relatively recently become aware of him.
He was part of the story.
Was he part of the original?
Yeah.
Was he part of the original Death of Superman?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't remember that, but I trust you. But no, yeah, you're right. He is he's a great character. I love how they use him here. And that's where a lot of the emotion at the end comes from. That's
Bibbo. Exactly it. That the emotion when he's actually battling Doomsday never really got to me. Like the first time I felt a real true emotional tug was, and again, this isn't because I don't think it was well done. I want to make that clear. I do think it was well done, but the emotional weight wasn't there for me because I knew the beats and what was going to happen and what to expect. So I'm just watching this as an action fan, watching these two, take each other's heads off. But the first moment that truly became emotional to me is because I love this sort of a thing, is when Doomsday's got Superman down on the ground. I think he's got like his foot on the back of his head and a rock hits him in the face and he looks up and there's Lois with another rock in her hand. When some normal person out on the streets stands up to an insurmountable odd and will not back down even though they pretty much know what's coming, somehow that scenario almost never fails to work for me. It worked here. I know at least Andy and I aren't fans of Amazing Spider-Man 2, but that one scene in that film that I did love was that kid that was wearing the Spider-Man mask standing up to Rhino there at the end. I mean, we all know what would happen here, right? But that kid's got the courage to stand up to the Rhino there. Or in one of the Raimi Spider-Man movies, I think it was 2, when the people on the subway and Ock's going to kill Spider-Man and all the people are standing there like, you have to go through all of us to get to him. They know what's going to happen to him, so that sort of a thing works for me. So that was like the first solid emotional beat that I got out of this particular movie. And then there was a couple more at the end when Lois goes to see his parents at the hotel that they're staying at, or when the parents are at the funeral procession or the memorial thing and the cops telling them to back off and they're both just a wreck and the cops he doesn't understand who they are, but they're feeling the loss of their son there. That worked really well for me. And then, Bibbo saying that prayer, giving the Hail Mary and then saying, God, how can you let Superman die when an old roughneck sailor like me goes on living? It's not right. I mean, those were the moments for me that were emotionally the strongest in this film. And the fact that it took that long to build up to him, I guess, is maybe a little bit of why I was off balance with this film some, because I didn't really feel a lot of emotion coming to those points. But then I felt it when they delivered it there. So I'm trying not to be critical of it and saying that I did love those moments at the end of the film when you see how everybody's feeling that loss.
I feel like the loss of Superman worked really well. I mean, I didn't shed a tear, but I still felt like I felt the emotion they wanted me to. When Lois has him in her arms and he says, what a lucky man I was, that got me, that little moment really, that hit me. And then I think that, they gave the proper time and just reverence for the death of Superman after that. And it's all those moments that you just mentioned, Jamie, of, of the funeral and of the parents and of Bibbo. And I think they allowed the film to take the time to mourn Superman in a way that he deserves. And so I was actually really pleased with that. Again, it didn't actually make me cry because I'm just too macho, but it still, I still found it effective.
I take it back. The first moment was not the part where she throws the rock at him. The first moment that actually gave me the little tug was on the suspension bridge where Superman saves that kid and he hands him the video game thing. He's like, go back to your mom. And he just smiles at the kid. in the middle of the biggest fight of his life, he's got time to smile at that kid and send him on his way, make sure he's okay. So that was really the first moment that got me, I guess.
Yeah.
Same here. And not to add more to that moment, the kid runs back. He starts to run away, then he turns around and he gives Superman a hug. And it's like, oh, there it is. Oh. But then at the end, when he's fighting Doomsday and they get their last two punches in, and you see Superman fall and you see Lois hold him, like that was kind of the point where I was kind of a little broken and I started getting a little misty. Yeah,
absolutely. And prior to that, again, it's the death of Superman. It's, you still are paying for a Superman Doomsday fight, and it's okay to like that and want that. And I think the movie delivers that. Like, the movie lets that fight be as epic as you want it to be. So I think that they really deliver on the action. And then as it wraps up, first of all, I've never... In the book, I don't remember... I mean, I remember it just being a mutual blow between Superman and Doomsday, and they both kind of fall dead. Whereas that's
my recollection, too,
with Superman straight up hitting him so hard that it twists his head
the double fist flying drop punch.
Yep.
Thing, yeah.
I was like, well, that's a little more definitive. Okay. And at the same time, like, then he gets, stabbed through the chest, reminiscent of Batman versus Superman, which is just a little more clear and concrete of like, oh yeah, this is why he died, as opposed to him like, oh,
just getting knocked out.
Exactly.
Right.
Getting knocked down and you go, okay, I guess that killed him. Making it a lot more
definitive,
unmistakable, definitive. Exactly. So, like that moment is as brutal as it needs to be, but man, like just watching Doomsday's head spin around like that's pretty awesome.
Quality. It was very quality watching that happen.
I got one gripe that I got to get out of the way about the Superman Doomsday confrontation.
Okay.
Just one. And technically it's not even Superman in Doomsday, but he gets blown up at a gas station. The cops are saying, oh, it's dead. It killed him, and they're all happy, and he walks out. He ain't even got a hair out of place. Batman hits him with the little pellet bombs, and that's what starts knocking his costume off. That's nitpicky as hell, people. I know it is, but it bugged me twice.
Oh, Jamie. No, that okay, so I didn't notice that.
He also, after Superman got a hold of him the first time, he punches him into a giant oil rig, and that's what takes the suit off for the most part. And I was just like, well, why didn't it do that the first time? Like Jamie said.
It's a nitpick. It really is. It's not something that even takes me out of anything. I just want to throw out there a little more consistency there. I would have gone maybe a little bit better for me. But
oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's okay. Here's my nitpick like that, because I got one of my own. So I love that the movie takes the time to set up the image of Superman's cape flapping amongst all the rubble, because that was, the famous cover. And I love that the movie takes the time to set that up. So there's a moment where Doomsday's got the cape wrapped around Superman's neck, and he eventually rips it off and throws it. So you assume that that's the cape that then you see after the death. That's kind of, it's kind of on a piece of rebar and flapping, right?
Yeah.
Here's the problem.
Okay.
After Doomsday rips it off, Superman still has enough of a cape that still has his logo on it.
The top half. Does it?
I missed that.
The top half, yeah.
He still has the top half of it that has the logo on it. So then when they cut to the cape that had been ripped off, it also has the logo on it. And I know Superman ain't got two logos on the back of his cape.
No, that's not true. The top half of the cape has it on the side that faces out. The bottom half has it on the side that faces in. That's why you didn't know. Does that work? We take
not really.
I recall something like that. I'm
not buying it, but I appreciate the attempt.
I got nothing.
I noticed it the second time, because I watched it twice as well. And the second time, because again, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I love that they wrote it into the story, so that way we can have that image later on. But then when Superman's going in for that final kill move, which he twists his neck. He kills him by twisting his neck, right? So that never happens. And as he's charging, yeah, half the cape is there, and you can see the logo still on it. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we overlooked that little thing.
You know, when
it's nitpicky, doesn't really matter, but anyway.
When he twisted Doomsday's neck, now that you mention it, I'm just thinking that kind of reminds me of Man of Steel more than, well, yeah, obviously getting stabbed through the chest is a clear reference to Batman vs. Superman, but the whole getting the neck broken the one way, little Man of Steel reminiscent, but it's not quite the same because it was General Zod and this is Doomsday. Yeah. But funny enough,
there were definitely nods to various films and such throughout this.
Oh yeah. You know, for a split second there, I actually thought I could hear a hint of John Williams' score throughout some of the music playing through the movie. It's not quite.
I heard more of the Lois and Clark TV show, and I don't know why that was, but a couple of the notes, I'm like, that's almost some Lois and Clark stuff.
Wouldn't surprise me.
And I don't think the score here was magnificent, but these animated films, it's hard for. They don't carry the budgets to get these massive composers and such to do them, so I'll let that slide.
Yeah, not everyone can be Christopher Drake.
Amen to that.
It was solid, but yeah,
it was sufficient. I don't have any real problems with it. It just nothing really stands out particularly high for me.
Not quite memorable, but not exactly forgettable.
Good enough.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned, and I already skipped around it once unintentionally, you already mentioned Wonder Woman and Doomsday fighting, which I thought was magnificent, but I also really loved it when Flash was fighting him.
Oh, totally.
He had Hawkman's mace, and he's just running around hitting him multiple times, and Doomsday finally just crouches down and does that little bit, almost the Justice League kind of a thing where he's kind of looking around with his eyes at, Flash. He's starting to feel the pattern or whatever, and then just catches him and drills him. I got a big kick out of that.
I thought that was really smart on Flash's point to pick up Hawkman's mace and just, because was he really going to try and punch Doomsday? No.
No, he was going to push him and run away.
Maybe, probably. Oh, man. But yeah, Barry picking up the mace from Hawkman and just beating Doomsday around with it and then up to the point where Flash gets taken out. It was a really nice moment for Flash too, I figure. Also, Aquaman coming in with his trident and trying his best to get his arm around his neck and just try and take him out. But nice try, Aquaman. I give you props, but that was a slow clap.
I wish we could have gotten a little more involvement in a couple of those leaguers being out there. I think Aquaman could have gotten another 30 seconds or something like that. But again, that's being nitpicky.
Same with Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, I agree. I would take more of all of them, but I get it as far as timing goes. But I mean, even we got like a little Merrick cameo, which was cool. Mm-hmm. My other little nitpick, and I bet Jamie will agree with me on this, but it's not a big deal. But you've got all of the Justice League, and they only used one female member, Wonder Woman. And I was like, come on, like, give us Hawk Girl, give us Mara. It was just, I'm like, just a bit of a sausage party. Like, come on.
A little bit.
I mean, for the most part,
I like how whenever I say sausage
with the exception of Hawkman, it was the mainstay league members here, though.
Oh, I know, but like, and that's why the old show used Hawk Girl is because need a little bit of more girl power on the team.
A little bit more estrogen out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's a little nitpicky thing, but it was just one of those where I was like, okay, like, I mean, Wonder Woman's awesome, but we need more. So.
I also like the reference of when they're in the Hall of Justice, wherever they're at, and they're going over like the thing, the energy budget's higher than what the UN approved, and Batman's like, I'll cover it, don't worry about it, what's next? And Wonder Woman's like, Wonder Woman merchandise sold really well this year. I can cover that if the Wayne Foundation can't. So I got a kick out of that for some reason.
I probably laughed a lot harder than I should have at that.
Wonder Woman merchandise was on fire this last year, so I completely get the meta aspect of that.
Oh yeah,
I loved the Justice League meeting where Batman can't go because he's got a parent-teacher conference. I thought that was great. I love that. I love how Flash and Green Lantern just give him so much crap.
I'm Batman. we need more chaperones for the dance. That was, I didn't laugh at that, but I did smile at it. So.
Well, the tables have finally kind of been turned a little bit. You know, Batman's been pretty serious throughout a lot of these movies, and now he's kind of the one, not necessarily making the jokes, but he's being a little more humorous. You know, I can't make the meeting. I've got a parent-teacher conference to go to, and Flash and Green Lantern just take the first chance they can to just be like, oh, Batman's got a parent-teacher conference, huh? Who would have thought? And, you know.
Well, and I love how embarrassed he was. He was just kind of like,
yeah.
I have to speak with the dean at Damien's school.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so speaking of, like, you know, again, jumping to the end of the film, I also loved the moment where during the funeral, it cuts to Wayne Manor and Bruce is there with Damien and Alfred, and Damien just kind of leans on him just a little bit. It's just like a really sweet little moment.
It is. In Justice League versus Teen Titans, Robin actually saves Superman, so for that moment does kind of give me a little more edge for Damien to put his arm around his father in this very hard time for him, because he just probably lost his best friend.
Yeah, so that was great. It just seemed really fitting that Bruce isn't there, but he's mourning at home, and and he's got his family around him.
Well, he did take a lot of damage from that Doomsday fight. He looked pretty bandaged up. He looked like he'd been sleeping for a little while.
Yeah, they all did, man.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, Doomsday.
They all took a beating.
Oh yeah, Doomsday spared nobody any mercy at all.
He's a bastard, that one.
I also love the scowl that Wonder Woman gives Lex Luthor when he's speaking at the memorial service about how Superman and he used to have those chats.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's great. So I did not mind Rainn Wilson as Lex. Didn't
horrible.
Bother me.
Absolutely horrible.
Okay. I didn't even, you know what? Once I saw the credits, I went, oh yeah, I do remember hearing that he was going to do it. But while I was watching the movie, I did not know that was him. And
I knew the voice was off, but I couldn't explain why until I read the credits.
Yeah. So I didn't have any strong feelings about it, but I did like, as Lex does, I loved him playing both sides. I loved him showing up in his power suit to try and be the big savior. Mm-hmm. But even in that moment, he wants to carve a piece of Doomsday off for himself.
Yeah. The character work and writing was fine. It's just that # release the Clancy Brown cut. There we go.
Oh, jeez.
Hearing, like I said, I rewatched all these Justice League movies involving Superman. Lex Luthor gets teased at the end of Justice League Throne of Atlantis, and he's voiced by Steve Blum, and then he's again introduced in the beginning of Justice League versus Teen Titans, and he's in his first power suit, again voiced by Steve Blum. So to hear him being voiced by Rainn Wilson here in this movie is it's a bit of a different tonal change, especially in their voices, but I don't know. I wasn't really indifferent to it, but at the same time, I really wasn't over the moon. Like I would have much preferred, like Jamie said, someone like Clancy Brown, or maybe even like Michael Rosenbaum, or Steve Blum to return. Honestly, that would have been a little more keeping in line with continuity. That's just me, though.
Yeah, that would have been me too. Again, I had no problem with Rainn Wilson's his performance. I was fine with it, but for me, it's like, if this is in continuity, just keep the same voices. Like, they do a really good job of that with the Justice League, like with Rosario Dawson as Wonder Woman, Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern, Christopher Gorham as Flash. Like, they're really good about being consistent with the Justice Leaguers. So I don't know why you wouldn't just do the same for Lex.
Rainn Wilson is on my Mount Rushmore of people who should go away and never return with Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson. So,
it must be hard having such horrible taste, Jamie. Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson are delightful. I don't really care about Rainn Wilson, but Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson are wonderful, Jamie.
No.
I love them both.
I think they're fine people. I think they're totally fine people. I think they do fine roles. I love Ryan Reynolds on a very much actor role. He's one of my favorite actors personally, but, teach their own, man.
Yeah. And Rainn Wilson, honestly, like I just saw The Meg, and that was kind of the first time I did like him, just because I hated Dwight on The Office so much. I hated him. And that's not, I guess that means Rainn Wilson was doing his job, but
You're not wrong.
But like on The Meg, I found him relatively entertaining.
I found one part of him in The Meg relatively entertaining.
Oh, is it the part where
no spoilers, but I think anybody can guess.
I had the chance to see the Meg the other night. I did not. I actually saw something else. I saw.
It's not bad. It knows what it is and it doesn't apologize for it.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it for what it was.
All right.
Anyway, it's not about the Meg, but
this is about Rainn Wilson.
It's about Rainn Wilson. Holy Rainn Wilson cast.
Holy Rainn
So,
Wilson.
okay, everybody name their top 10 Rainn Wilson roles, starting with 10 and counting up to 1.
Number 1 through 10 is all Fish Boy in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh, that's right. I forgot he's in that.
Super. Yeah, super. That's
You really don't have to. You really don't have to. It's okay. Yeah. It's fine. So we mentioned, there are a couple nice nods. One of my favorite pieces of animation was towards the end of the Superman Doomsday fight when Superman takes Doomsday up super high and then punches him as flying, which is very Man of Steel. I love that. That whole mid-air fight between the two of them, I thought was really awesome, and I thought the animation was really great. And then there's the moment where Superman runs into Lois towards the end of the fight, and she says, "I've got you," and he says, "Yeah, but who's got you?" Which I thought was a great nod to Superman the movie.
I did not catch that. That's a good call. I
caught it,
that.
but I thought it was a little. I don't know that it made sense in context there. Like when she says it to him in Superman 78, it makes sense because she doesn't know how he's flying. It doesn't work in her mind. It doesn't register. In this case, I'm not sure I quite understood the context other than they're throwing that line in there so everybody could say, hey, that's from Superman 78.
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, but it worked well enough. He's kind of bruised and battered, and she said, "I've got you." And he says, but who's got you? I don't know. I appreciated the nod, but yeah, a little forced, sure. And then that's where, another really nice moment where she goes, "Okay, like you need help. Wait for the cavalry." And he says, "I am the cavalry. If you've got Superman, there's no one else coming."
Right.
What I'm going to find interesting is whether or not this is the moment that we see in Reign of Superman, for example, them really deciding to expand the ranks of the Justice League. Because they realize that there's going to be threats out there that are more powerful than Superman could have even handled. So now we need to go out here and recruit the likes of, Hawk Girl or Black Canary or just any number of infinite DC characters that have been members previously or currently of the Justice League and incorporating them into this new series.
Still kind of waiting to see if they ever do Booster Gold. I kind of want to see if they'll ever do Booster Gold in this universe. More to your point, I'd probably like to see some more Green Lanterns. Definitely like to see Jon Stewart, Kyle Rayner, Simon Baz. Yeah.
Get Baz and Cruz in there, straight. I'm set.
Also, how about bring back some of the more Justice League Dark? I'd really like to see more Justice League Dark be integrated in this more Justice League's type of team-up stuff. Or Blue Devil. How about Blue Devil?
Yeah, damn right.
Don't nobody want to see no Blue Devil?
That's not true.
It's totally not
Everybody wants to see it. They just don't know it yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if they're ever going to get around, if they ever decide to do Red Hood and the Outlaws.
I'd watch it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind it. Yeah, maybe another Blue Beetle, maybe Ted Kord.
Yeah. So, I mean, the point was the possibilities are endless, and now they've genuinely reached the point where they know there's going to be problems that are beyond their capacity to handle. So expand the ranks, because there's only, 7 of them in this one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, 8 if you include Shazam. Shazam wasn't anywhere near in this movie. He wasn't present at all.
Oh, he was in math class. They had a big test.
Was that stated, or you?
No, I'm just making that up.
Okay.
But it sounds good.
I know, right? It makes sense. Oh.
So, yeah. Any other favorite moments or highlights of the film?
One more time, I got to call out Bibbo because it's another moment I really loved. It was more of a fist pump or a respect moment, but the part where they're in the his restaurant watching the TV, watching this throwdown, and they're basically, I don't remember what they said on the newscast, something about like evacuate the city or whatever. And Bibbo just turns around to all the patrons that are in his restaurant and says, if you don't have any place to go, you're going to stay here, you know, until everything blows over.
Right.
I got you. So, I mean, to me, he truly was the anchor and the MVP of this film. He really was.
Yeah, for sure. And then I want to call out, we mentioned a couple, but like, again, the setups for the reign of Supermen to come, you know, we've got the nanny who, you know, is
so help me God, if they get him
Eradicator.
voiced by Fran Drescher in Reign of the Supermen, I will bow down and kiss somebody's feet. That would be awesome.
Okay. We mentioned John Henry Irons, so he's working with Silas Stone, which was a nice little setup there. Wearing the Superman shirt, that was super cool.
And still, even though they altered Henry Irons in that, John Henry Irons in that, they still kept the whole thing about Superman saving him at the construction site. That was a nice touch there.
That was
I like that. Like that was still part of his past, but now he's just done, gone to do more.
Right.
It's a callback to Throne of Atlantis. Yeah. John Henry Irons. You had the Eradicator. You also had the other two.
Hank Henshaw.
Hank Henshaw.
So you had the whole
setup with him was
gravity
nice too.
sequence. Yeah, the whole gravity sequence with Hank Henshaw and his crew.
Repeatedly talking about how Superman had saved him and is still going to save him in that moment till the very last.
Oh God, that's heartbreaking. Where like he's sitting there and like it is the end, and he's like, it's gonna be fine. Superman's gonna come.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, that one was hard watch.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Because as I recall in the
understand
comics, he blames Superman for the death of his wife and crew. So I mean, that I don't remember the exact scenario of it, but somehow it's in my mind that that's what happened. Something happened to his wife and crew, and somehow he blames Superman for it happening.
Right. And then you've got the clone,
Superboy.
will eventually be Superboy. Yeah, that you just the little glimpse of the clone. And then I love that they give us 4 post-credit sequences, one setting up each one of the Supermen.
They already announced who's going to voice Superboy too.
Oh, they did. Who was it? I remember.
It's Cameron Monaghan who plays Jerome and the other twin brother from Gotham. Yeah, he's going to voice Superboy in the next Reign of Superman movie. Reign of the Supermen, I should say. I dig it.
Yeah, that works for me. But yeah, I loved the 4 post-credit sequences setting up the Supermen.
Honestly, one of my favorite sequences is when to wind it back a lot when Lois and Clark are meeting Clark's foster parents, the Kents, in Clark's apartment. I actually really like that scene a lot because, the Kents are teasing Clark a little bit and Lois is just having a blast and Clark's just getting he's getting frustrated. He's getting embarrassed. He's like, oh man. Oh, and then, he tells Lois, oh man, I watched this yesterday and I'm trying to remember how this conversation went down between the parents and Lois Lane because somehow she walks away from it all and Clark goes to console her and it leads to not necessarily a fallout, but like a very awkward morning at the office and Lois kind of fills in Cat Grant about it, but it just kind of helps it move the story along a little bit. I don't know. I kind of rambled on there a little bit. I'm sorry.
Okay, all good. Cool. So anyway, why don't we, unless there's anything else that we need to call out, I think we can do some closing thoughts and some letter grades. Jamie, kick us off.
I think that this is an enjoyable film. I think it's worth buying, worth owning. I think that even though I kicked it off a little bit negative and got some gripes out of the way and wasn't quite as over the moon with it as other people, that doesn't mean that this was not a quality film. It was a quality film. It's a credit to this line that we've had rolling for 11 years now. And they incorporated some things into a pretty accurate telling of the death of Superman's story that in some ways improved. Obviously it's not as involved and as elongated time-wise. I mean, obviously we don't get as much build-up there, but I think they did a very admirable job with it. And, outside of my gripes for the film, I think it's certainly higher than lower, if that makes any sense. Letter grade for me is probably going to be right in the B range.
Okay, cool. What about you, Phil?
I've been a fan of these movies since they started coming out. Like I said earlier, this one really struck a lot of chords with me. Superman's my number 2, as you know, Batman's my number 1, but Superman's always been there right alongside Batman since I was a kid. So to see this story again in the form of animation, and it being kind of a step up from Superman Doomsday, I was really pleased with it. Animation, story, voice acting for the most part, probably somewhere between an A-, B+, probably more on the B+ side.
Cool. And yeah, I really don't have a lot of gripes about this one. I thought it was pretty great. It was a really strong entry as far as I'm concerned. And so, a couple little tiny nitpicks here and there. And but overall, I think they did a really admirable job of remaking the same story that they did 11 years ago in a way that didn't feel like, oh, I've already seen all this. I could watch Doomsday and I can watch this, and they do feel like two completely different movies. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. I liked the way the story was structured. I liked the way the story built, and I feel like it really pays off on the death of Superman and everything that leads up to that, as well as the inclusion of the rest of the Justice League and the rest of the characters. And so for me, it's a really strong one. I'm gonna go with the higher end of Phillip's rating. I'm going with an A-.
Okay.
All right.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, ain't no skin off of me. One thing I want to address and ask, because I'm not exactly sure how to translate it. Obviously, this is a little bit of a different start-off point for Doomsday in this film than what we've seen anywhere previously that I'm aware of. It's not how it started in the comics, in the previous film, or in BVS. So, I mean, it's different. Is this just a random thing that Doomsday happened to be flying through the universe on this comet? Did Darkseid throw this, or not comet, but meteor? Did Darkseid throw this at Earth as what Luthor was saying? This is an apex predator here to take out the strongest thing he can as like an advanced attack to open the door for, a force to come behind him with less resistance. I mean, what do you think we're looking at here, or are we even going to get an explanation?
I was actually kind of wondering the same thing. They kind of bring in Doomsday as just this big, brawling, destructive force of not necessarily nature. I guess more nature, yeah. He comes in and he just straight cleans house, but they don't really give much of a backstory. All you see is just him strapped to this meteor in this big, giant suit. So I am kind of curious to see if they'll delve deeper into that in Reign of Superman as like kind of maybe a B plot, maybe not, or if it's more like from the comics, if it's going to be a little more tied to Superman's history. I'm curious myself. I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's what I need. Somebody needs to give me an animated movie of Hunter Prey.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. I did wonder how much obviously not in this film, but in the next film, are we going to go into a deeper backstory of where Doomsday came from? I don't know. I personally don't need it. I kind of like the idea of just this horrible killing machine landing on Earth.
Yeah,
and
I don't necessarily need it either, but I mean, it's some doors were open here.
But yeah, they definitely sowed some seeds of like mystery of where he came from, especially with the subplot of Lex trying to learn more.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the comic books, they've more or less retconned it. I mean, none of this I don't think was actually in place when this story was written. But we had Hunter Prey, which gave us the origin of the Kryptonian scientists creating Doomsday initially, and there was all kinds of little stories where Doomsday encountered other places, things, and before he got to Earth, there was actually a moment where he and Darkseid fought to a standstill before he got to Earth. So. There's possibilities out there to tell another story with him, but it'll be interesting to see if they do.
I feel like that would be a really fun thing to explore because, in the age of Injustice, in the age of all these other explorations of all these other DC characters, like Supergirl just got announced for a movie. We're about to get Birds of Prey and The Flash. Just in this age of where anything might be possible, I'm with Jamie. I'd like to see a Hunter Prey film centered on Doomsday. Maybe that leads into a Doomsday versus Darkseid fight to a standstill. I'd be down with that. And then you see him get strapped to that meteorite, and maybe it could serve as a prequel to Death of Superman. Who knows?
I'd watch it too. Anyway, Death of Superman, a B, a B+, and an A-. So all above average scores. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Let us know what you thought. You know where to find us. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're all over the damn place. But hopefully you guys enjoyed The Death of Superman, because we will come back around and review the sequel, The Reign of the Supermen, whenever that comes out. We've been meaning, Jamie and I have been talking for months about like, oh, we should do Superman Doomsday before The Death of Superman comes out. And we all saw how that worked out. So, but it's never too late. We can still do it whenever we feel like it. So eventually we would like to go back and take a look at Superman Doomsday. And I am very curious to do it, especially now that this one is so fresh in my mind. So that's something else you can maybe look forward to in the future. Now, though, let's check in with you fine folks as we crack open the Wayne Manor Mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor Mailbox.
You've got mail.
What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
As always, we love to hear what is going on with you guys, and we got a lot of messages, so let's hear what you guys have to say. Here we go. This is from Franklin Gnosis. It says, hey, Andy and Jamie, I just finished catching up on all the Holy BatCast episodes. Wow. It took me 3 months, but it was worth it. Listening to you guys helps me get through my stressful night shift at Home Depot. Just a quick question. Have any of you guys read the Grant Morrison arc of Batman: The Return of Bruce Wayne? And if you have, what did you think of it? I thought it was really entertaining and interesting because it brings something new to the Batman mythos. Anyways, keep doing what you're doing. Take care, Franklin Gnosis. Franklin, first of all, props for getting through every episode of the show in 3 months. Amazing. You're probably so tired of our voices by now, so if you need to take a break, you take a break. We don't blame you. As for The Return of Bruce Wayne, Jamie, have you read that one?
I have not read any of the Morrison Batman stuff outside of, I think Arkham Asylum is the only thing I've read.
Okay, Phillip?
I've read Grant Morrison's Black Glove, Batman R.I.P., Batman and Robin Reborn, but I have not read Return of Bruce Wayne. I read The Road Home, but I've heard good things about The Return of Bruce Wayne.
Well, make it 3. I have not read The Return of Bruce Wayne either, so apparently we need to add it to the list. I'm not the biggest Grant Morrison fan. I appreciate what he does. It's just not always for me. But anyway, it's, one of those things that I'll have to go back and check out when I get the time. Next message here is from Matt Wheeler. It says, hey guys, I always love the podcast. I can't remember if it was you guys who did this or if it was on another Batman podcast, but a while back, you did a best Batman villain tournament where each of you guys involved had 2 villains that you laid out a defense for. I enjoyed that. I think it'd be awesome if you did something like that again. Best villain, best Bat Family, best Justice League, etc. I enjoyed the Dark Knight review with the Squadcast guys, and I'm looking forward to your review of Rises. Hit me up if you need a guest. Matt from the Matt Network. Matt, thank you for the message. Yeah, that was on this show. We did do the Bat Villain Tournament.
Rigged. Fixed.
James, and it's a very sensitive subject to this day. It was super fun, and yeah, I guess the question is, what would be the other... what would be the next version of that? We can't do villains again because we did it. So.
I kind of like the Bat Family thing. There's obviously plenty of options to get involved in there. That's a pretty good suggestion.
Tim Drake, end of story.
Batwoman, end of story.
Sorry. No, sorry, Tim Drake. Anyway, Tim Drake should have killed Batwoman. Future Tim Drake should have killed Batwoman.
Well, Clayface would still be alive if he had.
I know.
How about a top 10 Batman team-up show? Sorry.
Meaning teaming up with who?
Anyone. Majority superheroes, other allies, maybe even a supervillain. Top 10 Batman team-ups.
All right.
I could roll with that.
Yeah, fun ideas. Cool. All right, next message here is from Kyle Refner. It says, hey, Holy BatCast. A quick question for you. With rumors picking up again about Matt Reeves' Batman script going to be completed soon and the movie itself possibly filming in early 2019, what are you guys hoping to see in regards to the new Bat suit? Do you think it'll be the BVS suit without the years of battle damage or something more armored, maybe the classic yellow oval logo, or dare I say longer ears? What are your preferences when it comes to the suit and what do you hope to see? As always, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Take care, Kyle. Kyle, thank you for the message. And Kyle does a podcast. What is it? Cinemaversary? Something like that? Anyway, there's a half-assed shout out for your podcast, Kyle. I think it's Cinemaversary. But Kyle's a super, super nice fella. hopes for a new Batsuit. Phillip.
You know, I'm really, really pleased with Affleck's suit, but if I was going to have to hope for something in Matt Reeves' new suit, maybe some longer ears, not quite, Michael Keaton, big ears, but maybe a little more something medium length. Probably, definitely, maybe put the yellow back around the chest emblem. Honestly, maybe even take the step further, have the Batcave show an expanded closet of past suits, because we don't really know how far along his Batman will be. That's just me, though.
Would they be on hangers?
Possibly.
They should be.
They should be.
I think that's probably the best option.
Do you, Jamie? Do you think they should be on hangers?
I don't have time to get my cricket noise out for that.
or you're too drunk to find it.
Oh. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bust you out like that, man.
Batsuit?
No nipples.
I'm gonna go the opposite direction. I'm gonna go as many nipples as you can fit. So just full nipple suit, like nipples on the elbows, nipples on his cheeks, nipples on his knees, just nipples.
My serious answer would actually be, well, we've seen this in comics, Batman the Animated Series quite a bit. There have been moments where this particular look has popped up, and it's not necessarily something specifically with the costume, but to just have Batman kind of dwelling in the shadows with the cape draped over his shoulders and kind of cloaked around him, almost robe style, and just kind of like, see the eyes and the silhouette over there in the corner somewhere. I would love to see something like that. So I know that's not exactly the suit itself, but to see that image on a screen would do my heart great deals of good.
Nice. I don't want more armor. I like a sleek Batman, so like less armor is good. Like if we're going, blue sky, perfect world, I'd go longer ears. I'd put some blue on there. I'd put the yellow oval. But yeah, I'm all for a redesign. I think Matt Reeves should make it his own. I think he will make it his own. So I'm excited to see a new look for Batman, a new Batmobile, all that good stuff. So yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks, Kyle. So next message here is from Condor Zelander. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast family. I was wondering, would you review the Tom Mankiewicz Batman script from 1983? The script features Batman and Robin's origins with supporting characters such as the Joker, Penguin, Silver St. Cloud, and Rupert Thorne. The script was supposed to feature Bill Murray as Batman, Michael J. Fox as Robin, David Bowie as the Joker. It was going to be directed by either Ivan Reitman or Joe Dante. It's easy to find online, and there are 2 drafts of it." Condor, thank you for the recommendation. And yeah, like I'm telling you, Jamie, people liked that Batman 2 episode.
We got a lot of feedback off of that.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Do you know why? It's because they don't want to read the script, but they're fascinated to hear about it.
Judging by how long it took me to read that script, I totally get why they have that.
That's my theory, Don't quote me on it, but that is my theory. Is people are like, I'm curious as to what the hell was written, but I don't feel like reading it. No, that's another great option. Thank you so much, Condor. Next message here is from Keith Childers. It says, "Hey guys, I love the show. I look forward to it every week. And even though I've tweeted a couple times, this is my first email. With speculation that we're getting Black Mask in the DCEU, I was wondering, who would you cast and why? Thanks for making yard work and long drives bearable. Your fan and Jamie's fellow Hoosier, Keith." Hoosiers, woo! I'm from Illinois. It's kind of close, Anyway, Black Mask. Phillip, any thoughts on who should play Black Mask?
Years ago, I probably would have cast Steve Buscemi. Now, that's a tough call. You need someone very, very adamant. You need someone very kind of intimidating. You need someone with a presence. So if I had to pick anyone now, it probably would be, let's see. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but I got a number of dudes running through my head, and I'm just like, which one? Oh, so many choices, so little time. Michael Bowen, maybe, from Breaking Bad. He was in the 5th season of that. I think he'd probably do that role some justice.
Okay. Jamie, any thoughts?
Is Tom Hardy busy? I mean, if you need somebody to emote without really being able to see their face, who else are you going to call, right?
I mean, I have another fan cast for Tom Hardy personally, but it's for a whole different character.
I'm not sure. I really have to think about that.
I know
I don't know.
it's tough when we don't have time to prepare. I have seen the fan cast of Viggo Mortensen, and Viggo is amazing, and I would have no problem with that because I think he would kill it. My fan cast for Black Mask is a little weird, but I'm thinking of like the strength of personality, and mine would be Woody Harrelson.
Oh, I like that.
It's funny you say that because that name actually went through my head, and then I was like, nah, I don't know. But yeah, it really could work because Woody can play crazy with the bust of him, and Black Mask has kind of that unhinged aura about him. So I can see that working.
I like that.
That's my thought. All right, next message here is from Elder Murray. It says, hey, Andy, Jamie, and possibly Brendan, how are you? After listening to your episode on Batman 2, and then going back and watching the Shadow of the Bat documentary, do you think another director should have directed Batman 89 and Batman Returns? I think directors like Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, Oliver Stone, Francis Ford Coppola, Robert Zemeckis, John McTiernan, Mark Lester, Richard Donner, and Warren Beatty could have been great for both Batman movies at the time, especially after WB going in another direction with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Elder, thank you for the message. What do you guys think? Jamie, do you think there's another director who should have done Batman instead of Tim Burton?
A late 80s McTiernan directed Batman film? Man, wow. That could have been something.
Okay, yeah. What about you, Philip?
Ridley Scott.
Okay, cool.
1980s Ridley Scott, no question about it.
So of these names, I think Zemeckis could have been great, and I also think Richard Donner could have been great. But I am a Tim Burton whore, so I'm very happy with the two Tim Burton Batman movies I have.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm complaining about anything going on with them two movies, big enough to say ditch Burton, but now I can't get a McTiernan Batman movie out of my head. Thank you for that. Yeah.
I have the 89 logo tattooed on my arm. I love those movies to death, but if I honestly had to pick somebody, it'd probably be Ridley Scott.
I think that
I can see that. I really could.
I think Tony Scott could have been great.
I can see that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Next message here. It's Stuart from Guernsey. It says, hey, Andy, Jamie, possibly Brendan. I like how there's always a possibly Brendan in these now. It's Stuart from Guernsey. A couple questions. What are your guys' thoughts on the current detective run? I'm absolutely loving it. It's just taking you on a ride, reminding me on how James' run at the beginning of Rebirth was. I can't believe that Hill is wrapping up once his story is finished. I'd love to see what he could do for a 50-plus run. Also, now Black Mask has been announced for Birds of Prey. Who would you like to see play him? Ha! Okay. Oh, look at this. I can't think of anyone but Woody Harrelson. He would be perfect for the role. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Stuart. I swear I did not read this before we talked about this.
Yeah, these emails are usually almost always surprises. So
they're often psychic.
That's
too.
gnarly.
So,
I like that.
So yeah, we're with you, Stuart. As far as the current detective run, I'm a little behind, but I'm enjoying it fine. Honestly, it's not. I can't really remember what's going on right now, but I remember reading the first one after Tynan left, and I went, oh, okay, it's still pretty good, but. Yeah, I don't have strong feelings about it. Jamie? I
actually am really enjoying it. Big shoes to fill after Tynan stepped down for me because Detective Rebirth has consistently been one of my top titles in the Rebirth era. So I was a little concerned when he left the book, but I think Hill's been doing an excellent job. I'm pretty sure he's the guy that's writing the Wildstorm Michael Cray series, which is actually going to wrap up here in another 2 issues. Folks, if you're not reading that, catch the trade paperback in 6 months or whenever it comes out, because the toying around they do with known DC characters in this is really good, and I'm really enjoying that writing. But he's doing this arc where he's trying to eliminate the Bat family is what's going on with it. He's trying to tell Batman, you're more effective without these people around. The Robins, Batwoman, all of these are making you weaker. So I'm going to take these people out, and you're going to be more effective and more, back to your usual self. I want to say his name is like Karma or something like that.
Oh yeah, Karma. There we go. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm digging it. I think it's really solid. I do.
Yeah. Philip, are you reading Detective?
Unfortunately, I'm in a bit of a transitioning phase. The only thing I'm reading right now is All-Star Batman, but I'm looking at other stuff to pick up soon, so I will be checking out Detective. I've heard nothing but good things about Tynan's run and Hill's run, so I'll be checking those out as soon as I can.
Sweet. All right, next one is from Brian DeMasso. It says, hey, Andy and Jamie, during one of your episodes, you guys were talking about the Batman album by Prince and Jamie's distaste for the song Vicky Waiting. I stumbled upon an online story about what if someone was listening to Prince's Batman album and had never watched the movie, what did they think the synopsis of the movie might be? It's very imaginative and an interesting read. Check it out when you get a chance. Tell me what you think. I will have to give that a read because that
sounds like it's going to be worth some time. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will check that out. Thank you for the heads up. All right. Next message is from Peter Skinder. It says, greetings, fellow Bat connoisseurs. I'm a year-long listener, first-time emailer. I know Jamie is sick to death of the Batcat story that hopefully just finished up in Batman, but I have a deep dive you might want to check out. It's a 5-issue story called The Bat and the Cat in Batman Confidential, issues 17 to 21 by Fabian
Nicienza or something like that?
Nicasia.
Yeah.
Fabian Nicasia, I believe.
Okay. I've never been
Nicasia?
able to say that right.
I've never tried to say it out loud. I've seen it for 20 years, but I've never said it out loud, I realized, because he also wrote Gambit, and Gambit's my favorite. And artist Kevin Maguire. It's a fun, and I must say at times risque story about Batman's first encounter with Catwoman. The gloves definitely come off. I would like that you add the animated World's Finest episodes of the Superman animated series to your review list once you finish up the new Batman Adventures. They were also grouped together in one feature called the Batman Superman movie. The episodes feature the Joker, Harley, Lex, and Mercy. Sorry to run so long. Thanks for your hard work, and I look forward to every episode. So Jamie, the Bat and the Cat in Batman Confidential, that's your homework.
I'm good.
And then, I feel like we should review the Batman Superman movie because it's, it counts. It's an animated movie.
And let me tack something onto the tail end of that so I can remain positive here. Joelle Jones' Catwoman series that it's picked up immediately where Batman number 50 drops off has been excellent 2 issues in. She's drawing and writing it, and frankly, as far as I'm concerned, apologies to all the King fans out there, she's killing it with Catwoman, whereas King I don't think ever did.
Oof.
Awesome. All right, one last email here. It is from Mark Husan. It says, hey guys, I finished listening to your Dark Knight and Batman Begins reviews with Suicide Squad cast. They were great. There are a couple times you guys mentioned Roz, Lazarus Pits, and how Nolan didn't go there. I had to I had to get in touch to share my view, which is this, that Nolan did include a Lazarus Pit. It was in The Dark Knight Rises. Okay, so it was a figurative Lazarus Pit rather than a literal one, but it largely served the same purpose. Consider Alfred's dialogue. There's a prison in a more ancient part of the world, a pit where men are thrown to suffer and die, but sometimes a man rises from the darkness. Sometimes the pit sends something back. The choice of wording can't be unintentional, can it? Nolan's Lazarus Pit brings Roz back temporarily and in Bruce's mind, but it resurrects him. The other aspect of the Lazarus Pit that those who enter emerge changed. Bane, Talia, and Bruce are all changed for better or worse by Nolan's Pit. Anyway, thanks for the great podcast, and I cannot wait for the eventual review of Rises, which I think is pretty underrated. Best wishes, Mark from Wales. Mark, thank you for the message. Jamie, you want to chime in on this? The figurative Lazarus Pit.
But is Ra's al Ghul immortal? I think it's a very interesting perspective. I think the next time I watch that movie, which will probably be sooner than later, I'll pay a little bit more attention as they're going through that stuff and try and look at it from that perspective, because he may be onto something there. I don't know.
Phillip, any thoughts?
I never really looked at it that way, but that's a really pleasant way of looking at it. Like Jamie said, is Ra's al Ghul immortal? And I always interpreted that's how Nolan interpreted Ra's al Ghul specifically, but I never ever thought to think that the Lazarus Pit from the comics could have been adapted in such a way as it was, as presented in the email, as at the end of The Dark Knight Rises.
I get what you're going for, Mark. I get it. I do think you're probably onto something. For me, it doesn't quite work. It's not quite the same. Because in this Lazarus Pit, 99% of the people don't emerge from it, if that's what we're saying it is. Most of them just die in there. And I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's a valid point. for me, it's still not quite like oh yeah, that's totally the Lazarus Pit. I'm one of the people who wish Nolan would have embraced the mythology more instead of skirting the things he didn't like because they were too fantastical. But that's just me.
You're not alone. You are not alone.
The conversation's been had a lot recently on whether or not that was the best and worst thing to happen to comic book movies.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
So anyway, thank you everybody for those emails. We do love hearing from you guys. If you've got an email for us, you can send that, as always, to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Please and thank you. And before we wrap up completely, we also have a couple voicemails because you guys have been using the voicemail number. So again, if you do want to leave us a voicemail, that number is 323-366-9246. It spells nothing. 323-366-9246. So here we go. Let's check in on our first voicemail.
Hi, Andy, Jamie, and Brendan, who's probably live showing the Crocodile Dundee movie. I have a question with the animated Super Pet movie announced. What comic book character would you like to see have an animated movie on the big screen? And yes, Andy, I agree. Blue Devil should have his own animated movie. Mine would probably be to do like a Flash movie, but like kind of like Spider-Verse, where you get all the speedsters from all the different Earths and stuff. Just do some crazy madness. Yeah, this question's gonna get really sweaty. Alright, John, alright, well, have a good show, guys. Bye.
Alright, I think that was Jason Ritter. I think. Apologies if it wasn't, but the question was this. Because Spider-Man is getting an animated film, what other superhero would we like to see get an animated film? I mean, yes, you did say Blue Devil, of course, but I'll think of another one. But in the meantime, I'm going to let Phillip and Jamie answer so I can think of one. So, Jamie, anyone from the DC universe you'd like to see get an animated film?
DC universe, animated film. Well, Aquaman's getting a live action, so I don't need one from him just yet. I kind of like his Flash idea. Seeing all those speedsters running around the screen, shoot. That'd be like a $300 million budget movie there, so doing that animated would work out nicely, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Phillip, what about you?
Super Sons. Super Sons for sure with Damian and John.
I'd watch that. I'd watch the hell out of that.
Yep. Super Sons. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, Damian Wayne and John Kent for sure.
Cool. Ooh, it's tough. You know what I'm gonna go with is what we were just talking about. Like, let's do like a version of Tynan's detective team.
Ooh, that's good too.
I'd watch the hell out of that 3 times.
Batman, Tim Drake, Clayface, Batwoman, Orphan, and Spoiler. Like, yeah, like let's do that.
I'd watch that
after Blue Devil.
After Blue Devil.
All right. Next voicemail. Here we go.
Hey, what's up, Andy and Jamie? This is Bat Jordan Valdez calling in once again. I'm going to try to make this really quick. Got my 1-minute timer going again. I wanted to say I didn't really see Alfred's reply to Catwoman as, savage as Jamie described it. I actually thought it was sort of a continuation of the connection that we've seen between Catwoman and Alfred previously. Like in Batman number 44, there's that subtle moment where she just, like when she comes back in after getting her wedding dress and she just goes to Alfred. So I just saw it being a continuation of their sort of connection that we saw there. But I'll just take this moment to say I am absolutely adoring Joel Jones' Catwoman series so far. I mean, really both how this and Tom King's arc right now in Batman in the aftermath of the wedding are as much as it breaks my Batcat heart, exploring how much Bruce and Selina miss each other and how lost they are without each other. And Joel Jones' art, always breathtaking. And I'm loving this new villain, Raina. She's really creepy. So that's all I have to say. Batcat forever from the first kiss to the last. I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right, Jordan Valdez. Jamie, that's all you. It's between the two of you at this point. I want no part of it.
Because I'm in a positive mood today, I'm just going to say, everybody beware of falling skies, because Jordan and I agree about Joel Jones' Catwoman.
Well, small victories, man. There you go. All right, one last voicemail, and then we're getting the hell out of here.
Hey, Andy and Jamie. Anthony Morelli here from Bolingbrook, Illinois, in your old neck of the woods. I had to give you guys a shout-out because, Andy, I'm actually eating at El Burrito Local right now, so I kind of look weird because I'm talking to myself. But leaving you this message. Listen, I just want to tell you guys, first and foremost, you guys are outstanding. Every week I look forward to this podcast, so thank you and keep it coming. You just make that workday go by a lot faster. But listen, the nitty-gritty of this voicemail is last night it kind of dawned on me in regards to the DCEU and why it just hasn't had that reception that we've all been wanting it to have. And that's confusion. I mean, I saw the quotes from Matt Reeves. Now it's contradicting all the rumors and reports in regards to this Batman movie being a year one story with possibly Harvey Dent and the Penguin. And then it says that he's actually still talking to Ben Affleck. He stated that. So this will he, won't he is yet again happening. Then a picture surfaces with Paul Dini and David Ayer, and he's back on Gotham City Sirens, but there's still a Birds of Prey movie, and now they're not going to do the Flashpoint movie. It's going to be a Flash origin movie, and now Green Lantern Corps is going to be taking a little bit longer than we anticipated. It just seems like they don't have a clue. And then we get the Joaquin Phoenix thing, and Jared Leto's coming out saying he's going to get a Joker movie too. They just don't have a clear vision, and I think that maybe they need to sit back and just focus like what they did at Comic-Con. Give us the 3 films. Don't make these empty promises. They gave us trailers that are actually in production. Movies are almost wrapped up. That's what we need. And then they go focusing on the DC universe in regards to the streaming service. And honestly, I, as a fan, just want to see a plethora of good movies. And then you translate to the shows. Daredevil didn't come before Iron Man, okay? That came later because someone with a focus and a perspective of, listen, it's all part of a plan. Speaking of which, where's your 10-year Dark Knight anniversary, Jamie? Come on. See you guys later. Gotham City. Out.
All right, thank you so much for the message. I couldn't catch your name. I'm so sorry. It was just a little mumbled, and I apologize. But you were eating at Burrito Loco, which already is amazing. Please tell me you got a nice big steak burrito for me. And anyway, your point about just the confusion around the DC films and what movies are happening, what movies aren't happening, who's doing what, totally valid. I totally get it. But I think that your wish is coming true. I mean, I think Comic-Con was a huge indicator of a change in strategy of like, hey, these 3 movies are the ones we're making right now, and that's what we're going to talk about, and that's what we're going to focus on. The problem is so many, and we've discussed this in the past, just so much of the news that comes out of like, oh, there's a Joker Harley movie in development. There's a Jared Leto Joker movie in development. There's Birds of Prey. There's Gotham City Sirens. There's Flashpoint. Like, so many of those reports are not from Warner Brothers. They're being leaked by someone at Warner Brothers. And so if they could plug that leak, that would go a long way in helping decrease the confusion that's going on. But yes, it is true that like there's so much stuff that gets out there and so little of it ends up happening that, yeah, like now whenever you hear about a new DC movie that's in development, you go, yeah, we'll see. Because of that. And they need to be clearer and more deliberate in what the plan is, so people can have confidence that when something is announced, it's actually going to happen. So I get it. Jamie, anything you want to add to that?
Number one, the only way this stuff stops is when we all stop clicking.
Well, that's true.
Number two, I don't want Warner Brothers not to be thinking about 10,000 things at one time. I don't want that part to be shut down, because when the good idea pops up and they can move forward with it in a relatively, timely manner, go for it. But I don't want them to stop thinking about the possibilities. So that part of it, I don't want. What I would like is, Andy and I have talked about this before, for when somebody puts one of these BS things out there that, all these sites run with, I'm not even going to name names here, but there's just too many of them I can't even take seriously at this point. But when somebody gets this stuff out there and 40 of these blog sites run with it, for WB to have a PR person to just come out and say, no, that's not what it is. That's all they need to do. Just kill it right there. Kill it dead. So, but they don't seem to want to do that, because I think in their minds, they might still have that mentality of, hey, this is free advertising, free buzz, whatever. Even there's no such thing as bad publicity, I guess is the approach perhaps. But, again, I've quit clicking on almost all of this stuff just because I'm so sick of it. And at this point, I don't believe any movie's going to be made until I see a trailer. Everything's getting Young Justice season 3 from me from now on. Unless I see a trailer, I don't believe it.
I feel you. Okay, Philip, anything you want to add to that?
A lot of this DC movie talk has been one way or the other, depending on who you talk to, right? But evidently they're really trying to learn from their mistakes. That much is shown from Comic-Con. They only showed off the 3 trailers for the movies that they have in production right now, and that was the smart move. Beforehand, it felt like that they had someone in charge, but they also tried to really handle that person while he was in charge, and now it feels like they have another person in charge, and they're going to let that person in charge be the person in charge. At least that's my hope. As far as the movies coming out, let's just stick to the movies coming out. I'm with Jamie. I'm kind of over clicking on reports and looking into seeing what might happen, what might not happen. I'm waiting on official things from Warner Brothers at this point. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm with you guys, and I agree. It's like if it doesn't come from Warner Brothers, I just go, yeah, whatever, we'll see. But anyway, there you go. That's it. The Wayne Manor Mailbox and the Wayne Manor voicemail. Thank you again for everyone for chiming in. We do appreciate it. And that is where we're going to wrap up this episode of Holy BatCast. Philip, congrats on your first episode. It was great having you.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate it. I'm a huge fan of the show. I love listening to you guys talk. And I started listening to the show at a point in time where I got really tired of Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman. And when I heard Andy and Jamie talk for the first time, it was like a match made in heaven in a sense, because I love podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, and I love Batman. So this show to me, it means a lot to me. And I
don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but I like Batman too.
No,
it's true.
Don't be ridiculous.
It's very true.
So I really do appreciate you guys affording.
We are the Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin of this show.
Yeah, but Jamie's 10 times better than Mark Bernardin any day of the week. No question about it.
Anyway, no, thank you, Phil. That's so sweet. Where did anything you want to plug? Places for people to follow you?
Yeah, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter at Unfiltered. That's UNPHILTEREDDD. I'm kind of working on another podcast right now. I'm going to announce more about that here pretty soon. Aside from that, I'm usually just kind of on Twitter and Facebook.
Sweet. And Jamie, if folks want to keep up with you.
I'm on Twitter, BatRaider3960, on Facebook, hanging out in the Real Fans groups.
Cool. And you guys know where to follow me, but that is it. Thank you so much for downloading the show. Please do subscribe to the show. Please leave us an iTunes review, but most importantly, like Michael Keaton's Batman says, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Visit holybatcast.com. Find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon, Holy BatCast. But that'll do it. So on behalf of Phil and Jamie, I've been your host, Andy DiGenova. We will see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. This show is a proud part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can sample all the shows that are part of the network at rf4rm.com. Those shows include Real Fans for Real Movies, the original show that looks back at films past and present. There's also Holy BatCast, all about Batman and the DC Universe. There's Disorder, every Disney film that looks back at every Disney animated feature in order. There's Taking the Bullet, that looks at bad movies so you don't have to watch them. There's Please Rewind, the RF for RM retro show that looks back at older movies. And finally, there's Grim Grinning Hosts, a salute to all pop culture, but mostly theme parks. Again, you can check out all these shows at rf4rm.com or search for them by name wherever you get your podcasts.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
me?
That thing. Is he?
Yes. You did it. You saved everyone.
Good. It's all I ever wanted. Except for you. What a lucky man.